This is the Tilta Nucleus Nano, and I know it's been out forever, but I've had it for a while and I have a lot to say about it. This is the case that it comes with. It's not a hard pelly case, but it's definitely one made. I've had mine for about a year and it's held up really well. It's also the perfect size to slot into a large camera compartment. And this is what you get inside. There's a handy little manual. They give you a couple lens rings, though I never really use these because you always get a little bit that sticks out and it's always really annoying. I'll link the ones I use down below. But even though I don't use these, I'm glad to see them in the box. I just keep them in there just in case. They give you all the tools and bolts you need for all the different mounting options. A couple power cables. This one's for the Ronin S, and I think this one's for one of their own gimbals. And this weird looking thing is the charger. Right, let's address this right now. This charger is terrible. It's basically two magnets dangling on cables. I'll often charge my batteries in my bag, either on the way to a shoot or from a shoot. And I wouldn't trust that with this because it's just a flimsy little magnet. And it can either just completely come off or slide off and then it won't be charging anymore. Also, somehow they made the indicator LED confusing. It just flashes red. I don't know when it's charging or if it's an error or it's charged. It's just really annoying. So I got these two. This is a little one that I just always bring with me. It's small, it's secure, micro USB, and it's red when it's charging and green when it's charged, which is how it should be. This is the bigger one. I keep this at home. It can charge both the batteries and it has a handy little screen. I'll put links in the description for both of them if you want to check them out. And do, because they're so much better. Okay, rant over. Back to the overhead. Here's a little quick release mount for the hand wheel. They only give you one, but you can buy more if you need to. Also, Smallhd make one, which is a bit heavier and bulkier, but gives you a few more mounting options. They give you two batteries here, but they are super hard to get out. Let me just... Right. They look like double A's, but they're not, so don't make that mistake. This is a little plate to go on the bottom of your camera to give you a rod mount, and it comes with a little rod which you can attach with the included tools. Annoyingly, this whole thing doesn't fit in the case when it's built up, which means that you're probably not going to keep this in the case. And that means that you might potentially leave this behind thinking that everything you need is in here and this accidentally stays at home or attached to some other camera that you didn't bring with you. I really wish they could figure out some layout for this to properly fit in the case fully built up. They also give you a little clamp for the Zhiyun crane. I don't think this will fit on any of the new models, but there are other uses for it. Here's the little motor. There's a small screen here and two function buttons. They let you change the channel and calibrate with your lens. Then on the other side, you have a super annoying flap, which just always gets in the way and makes plugging in cables way more difficult than it should be. When you manage to finally get through the flap, you see a micro USB port for power. It would have been great to see USB Type-C just for future proofing, but it's not a big problem. You can also connect a cable here which gives you control of the camera from the hand wheel, but those are sold separately. Here's the one I have for the FS7. And this is the actual hand wheel. Firstly, the build quality is great. The quality of plastics and the finish is really, really good. So there's really nothing to complain about there. Also, the focus wheel is super smooth. This is the battery compartment, which takes one battery at a time. You have a calibrate button, a tiny little screen, a record button, which I mentioned earlier, and a few function keys, which I'll go through in more detail in just a sec. Down here is a little micro USB port. Unfortunately, they don't actually let you power the wheel with USB. You're basically left with using the included batteries, which should give you about 6 hours of battery life. So pretty good, but I don't know why manufacturers don't let you do that. It's super annoying. It's basically just there for firmware updates, and as far as I know, there haven't been any out yet. So it's just an annoying little flap with a USB port. If we take it to the other side, you see a little quick release mount and a few pins. Now, these I think were made with the intention to work with future accessories, but there's actually nothing out there yet that works with these, so for now they're kind of useless. There are no interchangeable marking wheels, so if you're a focus puller used to having a ring for each lens, you can't do that here. All you get is this tiny little ring here where you can mark your points. I don't think this will be a huge problem for most of you, but just something to keep in mind. Right, let's get this set up so I can actually show you some of the features. Okay, so I have it here on my A7 III. Got a power bank to power it up top, just with a bongo tie. You can probably come up with a better way to power it on your rig, but this works for me now. I have my 50mm Samyang here, which has hard stops and lens gears. So calibrating this is super easy. You just line up the gears, press and hold calibrate for 3 seconds, and there it goes. You can also do the same thing with holding down the down button on the motor. So now full rotation of this wheel goes from infinity all the way to close focus. But what if your lens doesn't have hard stops? It's a little bit more tricky, but it's not hard. You need to set your lens to close focus, which for me is here, and make sure your wheel is also in close focus. Then you connect your gears, double tap calibrate, and that will take you into HCA mode. And then from there, you need to slowly rotate your wheel until you get to infinity on your lens. Then just double tap calibrate again, and you're done. And now a full rotation of the wheel will again take you from infinity to close focus, which means you can actually add hard stops to a lens that doesn't originally have them. Also, if maybe you don't have much time or you don't need your lens to be perfectly calibrated, you can just press and hold calibrate for 3 seconds and just manually stop the lens at both ends. There you go, close enough. Also, it will remember the calibration. So if you need to replace any of the batteries, you can just turn it back on and go straight back in. So if I take this out and then twist this all the way to the other side, put the battery back in, turn it on, look at that. And it's still calibrated the way it was before. It would be great if you could save presets. So then you can just save maybe 10 lenses. And then as long as your lens was set to infinity or close focus when you connected it to the motor, it would remember the calibration. Also, if the motor is struggling with your lens, you can connect it through D-tap and it will actually give it more torque. You should be fine with most lenses, but if maybe you have a specific lens that maybe has quite a stiff focus ring, or some like more cine lenses might have a stiffer focus, it might struggle. I haven't tested it, but yeah, you can give this thing more power. Okay, let's take a closer look at the wheel. I have it set up here with my A7S Mark I just to show that it's on and working. This little screen here is tiny, but it's just about big enough to show you all the basic information that you need. So the big 7 is to do with your channel, which you can change here, down and up. You don't have to do the same on the motor, it won't automatically find it. The bit here that says free is to do with your focusing range. So at the moment, a full turn of my wheel will go from close focus to infinity. But you can also set A and B points. So say I'll go here, set A, go here, and set B. And now the full motion of this ring just takes you from A to B, which means that you know that you can hit those focus points. This is great to have, but I wish there was also a way to set your points and the wheel would vibrate when you hit your marks. I know this is something you're more likely to see on a more expensive follow focus system, but I don't see why they couldn't include it here, especially since it has a vibration motor. The wheel is pretty comfortable to hold, but the thing is, there's no way to lock any of these buttons, so when you're holding it like this, you're quite likely to accidentally press some of the buttons, and that gets really annoying really quickly. So I would definitely recommend getting something like this. It's just a little handle, so now you have something to hold it by, and you're not going to accidentally press any buttons. You can also build this up with, say, a monitor and a little stand, and all of a sudden you have a really cool wireless follow focus system. Right, let's talk about mounting options, because that's kind of the whole reason for this, is you can just mount it wherever you want your focus wheel to be. It comes with its own quick release system, so you slide it down into this rail and there's a little locking latch. It sounds perfectly fine, but it's actually kind of hard to get it on there sometimes. I feel like it has to be perfectly aligned to then slide down properly, otherwise it just gets awkwardly stuck. Also, it only slides in one way, which kind of limits your mounting options because you need access to that little quick release system from that side. You can't just kind of do it from the bottom if you have something in the way here. I think they did it so that the little pin mechanism here would always be in the right position and very secure, but because there's nothing out there that uses these pins, it's just kind of annoying. I wish they just used NATO instead, or maybe have an adapter that just converts it into NATO. They also give you a little ring to attach the quick release to a Zion Crane 2, I think. And obviously you can use it for that, but you can also attach it to some tripod handles as long as the diameter is kind of the same as the Zion Crane. But most of you probably bought this to use on a gimbal like the Ronin S. So let's see what it's like on that. This is my favorite setup for it on a Ronin S. I have it set up with a Smallhd plate for mounting loads of accessories. It also has a NATO mount, then a NATO mount friction arm, also from Smallhd, and a handle from Smallhd. I know there's a lot of Smallhd things, but they're really good. And so I can hold the actual gimbal with my right hand, and with my left hand, I can hold it on the back, which gives me support, and I have access to the focus wheel. And because it's on a friction arm, I can kind of just adjust it. There we go, that's perfect. Now, yeah, you can also just mount it to either side. But I found that if you do that, you can only hold the Ronin S with one hand. And I really don't think the Ronin S is a one-handed gimbal. I don't really like the Ronin S in general. I think it's too big to be a portable gimbal, and it's too small to kind of handle bigger setups. If you do like the Ronin S, then yeah, I think the Nucleus Nano is a great follow focus to get for it. You can move it wherever you want, and you can use it off camera, which is something that you can't do with the built-in one from DJI. So I would generally use it on interview shoots when I know I have maybe a bit more time to set up and troubleshoot. And also it's really good for it because I can just mount my focus wheel wherever I want. Like, this is a lot more convenient than having to focus all the way there. Also, if I can, I just take this off, find myself a seat, get comfy. I can start and stop and focus pull from there. I never really used to use it on a shoulder rig before. I tried, but it was with a Smallhd VCT plate, and it was just really bulky and heavy, and I didn't like it. But while prepping for this review, I rigged something up that I really like. So I have this little Smallhd thing that gives you rod mounts, and I've attached it straight to the Manfrotto plate, which means that I have rods on my FS7 and it's super slim, which means I can do this. So now I have a really light and comfortable shoulder mount, and I can pull focus right from the handle. And if I want to, I can just put it straight back onto the tripod. Okay, so I know this looks a little bit different and I look a little bit different. Basically, I was just shooting some B-roll and I wanted to show this little setup, and it started playing up. I thought it might be the battery, the cable, or maybe the battery on the wheel was going, but I kind of replaced everything and it was still playing up. Turns out, you just can't have the wheel really close to the motor. So if I try and use it now, it doesn't work. But if I move it away, it's fine. And it's not even anywhere near the motor because this works, but this doesn't. But the main thing is, if you were trying to use your Nucleus Nano like this, you can't. And also you just have to be quite careful in general that you don't mount them too close together, whatever setup you're doing. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to really highlight this issue because I think it will actually affect quite a lot of people. But yeah, let's go back to the main video. So who is this thing actually for? Well, looking at the marketing material on their website, it seems to be aimed at mirrorless cameras, especially when used on a one-handed gimbal, which, yeah, like, I agree with that. They seem to be saying that if you want something for a larger setup like the FS7 or maybe the Ursa, you probably should go for the Nucleus M instead. But this is way smaller and way more affordable, and you can still use it on a larger setup like I showed you before. So if you're a single shooter and don't generally have a focus puller, this might be a really good option for you. Also, if you have both the Nucleus Nano and the Nucleus M set, they all work together, so it's kind of like this follow focus pick and mix. Tilta also make these side handles to put on the side of a cage with your mirrorless camera, which then gives you focus control with your index finger. But I don't really see the point of those, because if you're going to be so close to your camera, you might as well just pull off the barrel or get a regular follow focus, because then there's less things to calibrate and go wrong and batteries to swap and whatever. So as great as this is on something like the Ronin S, I don't think it'd be very useful on a larger gimbal like the big Ronin or a Movi. For that, your better bet is probably to get something like the PD Movi, which I know a bunch of people use and love it, and then you can just focus with the little thumb wheel on the side, or something like the Nucleus M with the handle that you can then attach to the side, and then you have control with your index finger. I really wish they made a smaller one of these, like the thumb wheel from PD Movi. Also, if you film yourself a lot, then this is perfect. I can't actually reach the lens right now to refocus, so this is the perfect thing for it. I'm not using it now, so if I am out of focus, that's why. If you want to use it with a focus puller, you can. Yeah, it might be missing some of the more advanced features, but you don't always need those, and this does the job. Or say you want to get into focus pulling, this is a great starting point. And then maybe in the future, if you move up to a better system, you can still take this with you on shoots as a backup. Also, someone can be pulling focus for you while you're wearing a helmet rig. I'm not gonna say go out and buy it right now because it will change your life, but if you've been considering it, I don't think you'll be disappointed. And if you are, I'm really sorry. Maybe come back and let me know in the comments why you didn't like it. Overall, well done, Tilta. Just, right, give me a lock button, let me charge the USB, and make a mini one of these that's just a thumb wheel. And yeah, like, presets would be great, but like, you don't have to. Right, that's it for the review. Give the video a like if you liked it. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions and I'll get back to you. And if you want to see more, subscribe and do the bell thing, because that really helps. If you like this review, you might like the one that I did on the Mars 400S from Hoyland. It's an affordable wireless video transmitter system. It's the video I did before this and basically the only one I have so far. So maybe check that out. But anyway, that's everything. Cheers.